Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, and double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, Bahashem Rakah Kodash. Now, this article is on trade, tariffs, and wars that were started because of similar events. Putin warns of financial crisis the world has not yet seen. The global economy is facing a threat of a spiraling protectionist measures that can lead to a devastating crisis. Vladimir Putin warned nations must find a way to prevent this and establish rules on how the economy should work. The Russian president spoke out against the growing trend of using unilateral restrictions to achieve economic advantages as he addressed guests of the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. Now it says using unilateral only by one person or country or the country involved without an agreement of other on the other side. Okay, others on the other side. Unilateral restrictions to achieve economic advantage, and that's what Trump is doing with these tariffs. All right, there have been wars fought over events just like these and similar events like these. All right, as he addressed guests. Okay, so it's not beyond the realm of possibility that a trade war could break out into a physical war. All right, the system of multilateral cooperation, which took years to build, is no longer allowed to evolve. It has been broken in a very crude way. Breaking the rules is becoming the new rule, he said. Now, to me, it seems like he's pointing the finger at the United States, at a great Babylon. All right. Now, let's continue to read. In addition to the traditional forms of protectionism, such as trade tariffs, technical standards, and subsidies, nations are increasingly using new ways to undermine their competition, like unilateral economic sanctions, or taxes, tariffs. All right, meaning that they charge you more. There's always tax on imports, but they're charging you more, or they're taxing you more to trade your goods internationally. All right, and that's what Trump is doing with these tariffs he's imposing. I'm not sure if they're actually in effect. I believe they are. And nations which thought they would never be targeted by such measures for political reasons are now being proved wrong, Putin says. All right, here it is. The ability to impose sanctions arbitrarily, okay, and with no control fosters a temptation to use such restrictive tools again and again. All right, because if you're making more money, why not use, like the scriptures say, for the love of money is the root of all evil. And definitely the so-called white man Esau loves money. He loves it. Right and left, and in every case, regardless of political loyalty, talks about solidarity, past agreements, and long cooperation, and history, because wars were fought. The War of 1812, the Boston Tea Party, which was a part of the catalyst to the American Revolution. Putin called, well, I'm going to leave that there. Okay, I think you pretty much get the point that tariff is a tax. All right. Now, again, taxes, there's always taxes. All right. But it seems like they're making the tax unbearable. Like you have millions of say you sell a yam or something, and you put and it's already tax on it. Okay, you're not importing goods and not paying taxes. All right, you put a 2-cent tax on it. And you have millions of products coming to the country every year, every month. It's a lot of money. All right. So they can effectively control the economy of other nations by imposing higher taxes on imports. Because remember, in America, the United States is a great Babylon, is a consumer nation. All right. Now, the examples I have, obviously the Boston Tea Party. All right, where these Edomites dressed up like Gadites and dumped the tea into the sea. They wanted the ships to go back to England because of the uh, tax on the tea. Now, I believe the Americans already been boycotting other taxed goods overseas that they were getting from overseas, but the tea tax, they didn't. They were bypassing certain taxes so they would undercut local growers, and that's why the Sons of Liberty. Well, that's what I say. The Sons of Liberty stormed the ship and dumped the tea into the sea. All right, it says the Boston Tea Party was a political protest and
mercantile
protests by the Sons of Liberty in Boston, Massachusetts on December 16th, 1773, in defiance to the Tea Act of May 10th, 1773. So again, this tax is already there, but these Americans wasn't having it, which allowed the British East India Company. They were basically getting tired of the taxes. They were paying a tax. They were getting tired of the taxes, tired of this British East India Company coming into the country with the same product that could be grown locally, but they could sell it for cheaper because there was less tax on it, or no tax at all. Well, here it says no taxes. In defiance of the Tea Act of May 10th, 1773, which allowed the British East India Company to sell tea from China in American colonies without paying taxes. All right, thus undercutting local tea merchants. They demonstrated some disguise of Native Americans or Gadites destroyed an entire shipment of tea sent by the East India Company. All right, so if you don't have to pay taxes, you're effectively raise the taxes of the other guys or the other suppliers, relatively. All right, so this is a war fought on taxes, which is sanctions and a tariff. The Tea Act. And they say it was because of the Tea Act. All right, you got the War of 1812. The War of 1812 was a conflict fought between the United States and the United Kingdom and their respective allies. Historians in Britain often see it as a minor theater of the Napoleonic Wars in the United States and Canada. It has been seen as a war in its own side. Since the outbreak of the war with Napoleonic France, Britain had enforced a naval blockade to choke off neutral trade to France, which the United States contested as illegal under international law. Now, it's funny how the Americans didn't like being taxed in 1773 during the when the Tea Act was put up by Britain. In the 1773. Then the Tea Act was May 10th, 1773. They didn't like the Tea Act, and then that same year in December, when those ships came in from England, they didn't want to pay the tax anymore, so they got rid of the tea in Boston. Now, it's funny how they don't want to pay these higher taxes, but yet they're taxing right now other nations. So they're doing the same thing that the British were doing in 1773. Isn't that ironic? War of 1812. Since the outbreak of war of the Napoleonic France, Britain had enforced a naval blockade to choke off neutral trade to France. So the United States couldn't trade with France anymore because of the British blockade, which the United States contested as illegal under international law. To maintain a blockade, Britain impressed American merchant sailors into the Royal Navy. Incidents such as the Chesapeake-Leopard affair inflamed anti-British settlement. In 1811, the British were in turn outraged by the Little Belt affair, in which the 11 British soldiers died. All right, so the point is, these trade wars and tariff sanctions that are imposed by the United States, specifically the tariffs and the sanctions, is the same thing that Britain was doing to America in 1773. And I'm sure if I could dig deeper, I can find more stuff. But it led to war in both cases. All right. This is Ecclesiastes 3 and 15. That which has been, it is now, and that which is to be hath already been. And the power requires that which is past. All right. So better believe that history is repeating itself. All these wars are fought over money. It's a saying. I forgot who said it. It said all wars are bankers' wars. All right. And the British East India Company was in massive debt, and they owed money to the banks. So they needed to sell tea to the Americans, lucrative American economy, because Americans they had money and they were buying up stuff. So it was you can do very good business if you sold to the American colonies. So that was a way to help the East India Company get out of debt. And they owed debt to who? What? The bankers, to rob the so-called Jews. All right, owe money to them, and if they lost that amount of tea, then there's really no way they could get their money paid back. So I'm sure the word went out to go to war to recoup their losses. All right, all wars are bankers' wars. All right, so this is how a tariffs, sanctions could lead to war. I gave two examples: the Boston Tea Party, which they didn't agree with the taxes that were being put on them, which is tariffs, sanctions. All right, and the War of 1812, which was a blockade by the United Kingdom against French, which they declared war on France earlier in that this century, I believe in the early 1800s. They a few years before they declared war on France already. So basically, the United States is saying, well, just because you declare war on them, don't mean we still can't trade with them. So we don't, this is, and this, you see the context what I'm getting at. America, the Great Babylon, America, they're fucking hypocrites. You look at American history, so-called American history, Neo-Babylonian history. It's full of hypocrisy, lies, double standards, pride. What other scripture I have? Proverbs 13 and 10. Only by pride cometh contention, heated disagreement, but with the well-advised is wisdom. All right. And I have the Apocrypha of 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, and 11th verse, 12th verse. Egypt shall mourn, Shlakia, but I will bring, what I will, Shlakia, 11th verse, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. Egypt shall mourn, and the foundations of it shall be smitten with the plagues of and punishment that the power shall bring upon it. And that's definitely going to be war. Yahweh Shem Yahshua is going to bring war to America. And a large part of that is going to be because of their international affairs, such as the tariffs, sanctions, and occupations in other countries. They that till the ground shall mourn, for their seed shall fail through the blasting of hail, and with the fearful constellations, sights in the heavens. Woe to the war on them that dwell in, for the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another. That's referring to the race wars. All right, and swords in their hands. All right, and international wars between the Syria and the United States and the different European powers. Russia, China, Iran, different Hezbollah, different Arab organizations that are actually with the Russians and the Syrians on that side. For the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard kings or princes. In the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able. For because of their pride the city shall be troubled, and the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. All right, so when war breaks out, there's going to be martial law. There's going to be neighborhoods are going to be broken up. It can get very chaotic, and it's the best way to survive this is to trust in Yahweh Bashem Yahushai at all times, and complete and continue to perform a diligent work to push this truth, to be protected from all this evil, to at the least be on Yahweh Bashem Yahushai's good side. All right, so believe history will and is currently repeating itself. Shalom Akim.